Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. So today I'm doing an assembly tutorial for a card with inside shadow box frames. The die set I'm using today has been designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube, and I shall link her YouTube channel in the description box below. It is available in the KLJUYP Lovers store, which I shall also link in the description box below. The card I'm making today will be made as it is displayed in the KLJUYP Lovers store. I have been wanting to do the tutorial for this card for a little while now, so let's get started. This is the die set as you will receive it. We have this frame piece which we'll cut twice. There are these side pieces and we'll cut 4 of each of these because we'll be making 2 shadow box frames for the card. You also get this set of nesting ovals, which you can choose to use or not. And you also get some snowflakes. So you get a few dies in that set. Here is my prototype that I made before I did the tutorial. And you can see the 2 shadow box frames there. And you'll notice that one of them has a door that opens. Now the door is not a die that comes as part of the die set, and it is something that we will have to make by hand. And I'll show you that a bit later. So we'll get started, and I've got my frame pieces cut out here from the frame die. And what we'll need to do is keep the fallout pieces that come from the centre of that frame. We'll use at least one for the door, and the other one we'll use part of. And I've got the side pieces and also this base piece which measures 10 inches by 5.5. You'll come in 4 3/4 of an inch and score. Turn the card around, come in 4 3/4 and score, and the piece in the middle is 1/2 inch, but we'll talk about that a bit later, and that's our card base. So I've got the side pieces here, and there are 8 in total, 4 of each type. And you'll notice on these pieces that there are score lines. So we'll need to go ahead and fold along all the score lines of all these 8 pieces. And this is what it looks like when they're all folded up. So you've got these long pieces here, and these are the left and right sides of your shadow box frames. This is what it looks like when it's unfolded. And they have the mitered corners. And these other 4 pieces are the top and bottom of your shadow box frames. And they just have straight ends. So I've gone ahead here and I've put double-sided tape on the top and bottom of each of those pieces, and we're going to put 4 to the side and keep 4, and we're going to put a frame together. So we're going to bring in the frame piece, and the way I've got them orientated here in my workspace is the way that they go. So the long side matches up perfectly with the long side of the frame. So I'm just sticking that down into place and doing the other side. And for this tutorial I'm using a mixture of double-sided tape and glue, and the glue I'm using is art glitter glue. So these smaller end pieces, you need to glue them with that angled edge to the frame, and the straight edge is on the outer side. So I'm just getting the last end piece into place and giving it a burnish. And when you turn it over, you can see those neat corners. Now it's time to construct the frame. I'm going to be working on the top or the bottom of the shadow box frame, so the short sides. I'm going to take the release paper off and put that side with the adhesive against the inside edge of the frame. And what you can do here is you can push that down flat and burnish it, then unfold it and push it down flat the other way and then fold it back up, and you've got your shape. So I'm going to do it again on the opposite end. Take the release paper away and fold it around and down so that the adhesive is lined up against the inside edge of the frame. I'm going to push it down and burnish it, unfold it, push it down the other way and burnish it again, and then fold it back up, and that gives us our 2 end pieces. Now with the mitered corners I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to put some glue on the corners of those straight shorter ends and a little bit on the mitered edge. You don't have to do this, but I just prefer to. I'm going to take the release paper off the double-sided tape, and this is a little bit trickier to do. It's going to fold it around until that adhesive edge is against the inside edge of the frame. And I'm very fussy when it comes to my mitered corners, so that's why I've put the glue there. And it does take a little bit of finagling with these other longer sides. So I'm just using a tool to assist me there. Just get it into place. And I'm going to hold those corners so that they stick, because you don't want gaps in your corners. So you just hold that in place until the glue takes hold. So I'm just burnishing there a little bit. Not pressing down hard, otherwise you'll crush your shadow box. But firmly enough so that the glue can take hold. Then turn it around and do the other side. Some glue in the corners and a little bit on the miter. Take the release paper off the double-sided tape and fold it around, just working on one corner at a time, and the rest should fall into place. Might take you a little bit of finagling to get it the first time. You can see I'm lining up against that edge, but you'll get there. And then just to hold the mitered corners in place until the glue holds. So we're going to go ahead and make the next frame, and I've sped this up 6 times fast so that you're not punished with the whole thing again. You can see there I'm just putting the pieces into place around the frame. Turn it over, and then we're going to put the short sides together first, folding one way then the other to burnish, and then onto the mitered corners. A little bit of glue there, remove the release paper, fold it around, a little bit of finagling. Once you do it a few times, you get the hang of it. Again on the other side, and this is our second frame done. So that's our 2 frames finished, and it's onto the base card, and I'll give you those measurements again. It's 10 inches by 5.5 inches. Then you're going to come in 4 3/4 of an inch and score, turn your card around, come in 4 3/4 of an inch and score, and that will give you a 1/2 inch spine for your card. And now we can glue our frames inside. We're going to be applying glue where you can see the joins, not the pretty side that's got the stitching. So just put glue all around, and then we're going to make sure we line it up and put it into position, making sure there's an even gap all the way around and that you're not too close to the score line. So just pressing down, not too hard because otherwise you'll crush it. So just firmly enough to help the glue get a good hold. And then we can glue the other one in, applying glue to the side that has the joins and not the pretty side with the stitching. So we're going to put that into position the same way we did the other one, making sure there's an even gap all the way around and not too close to the score line. If you go too close to the score line, it will interfere with the way it opens and closes. So I'm just checking to make sure that's all good, just pressing down, not too firmly but just firmly enough. And that's our base done. And it looks pretty good the way it is, and you could use it that way if you'd like. But we're going to continue on and make a door for the left-hand side. Okay, so for the door, we're going to be using one of the fallout pieces that comes out when you cut your frame. And when you put it in, you can see it's an exact fit, but it's a little bit tight for a door. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trimming a little bit off the top and one of the sides. And to do that, I'm going to use my metal ruler and a scalpel. And I'm switching to metric here because it's easier. And we're going to take off 1 millimetre, and that's all it is, 1 millimetre off the top and 1 millimetre off the side. And be careful if you're using a scalpel and a metal ruler, you don't want to cut yourself. Ask me how I know. With the other fallout piece that we have here as well, we're going to use that too, or part of it. I'm bringing in my trimmer, and I'm going to trim a couple of pieces off to act as hinges for the door. So I'm cutting it at about just under 1/2 inch. So I'm just cutting my second piece there. So I end up with 2 pieces that are just under 1/2 inch and are the same length as the door. And I'm going to score at 1/4 inch. And what this does is it gives you one side a little bit wider than the other. And I did that on purpose. So I'm just going to fold them in half. Sorry, I'm a bit off screen there. Fold them in half. When I hold it up against the piece, I realise they're a bit long. So it's just a smidge I need to cut off the end. And I do that to both pieces. And they fit better now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim both of the ends, and I'm going to make sure that I'm trimming an arrow end, not a fishtail end. And fishtail end is what you do with a ribbon. So just do the other piece here, just trim the end, so we've got an arrow, and do the other end. And you'll also see here we've got one side that's a little bit wider than the other. Just put that other piece away, that's now scrap, you don't need that. And you can see now that that piece just slots in there with that millimetre off each side. And that's going to make the door work better. So I'm just getting one of these, and I'm going to make it into a hinge. And I'm going to apply glue along the wider side, and it's only wider by a little bit. It just gives you more surface to put glue on. And line it up and put it into place along that edge of the door. And press it down. Looks like my burnishing tool's gone walkabout. And I'm just checking to make sure that that's going to fit well. It's sitting a bit high, and I'll trim that a bit later. But I want to get the other side done too. So I'm putting some double-sided tape. You could use glue here, it wouldn't matter. Just along that edge, and that's what we'll use to adhere the door into the frame. So on to the next piece here. And I'm going to put glue on that wider surface. And the reason why I've done arrow ends here is it makes the fitting of the door a lot easier, and also the opening and the closing of the door on this side a lot easier as well. So I'm just gluing that into place. Making sure it's looking good, and I'm going to pop that in to make sure it's going to fit well. And I'm happy with that. So I'll take it out, and it's now time to move on to making a finger hole for the door so that you can open and close it. And I'm using my Hero Arts Infinity die set in the ovals, and I'm using the second from smallest. So I'm putting it into position here, and I'm going to tape it down, the little die. Or you could use a punch, that would work too. I just don't have any punches. And I'm going to do some partial die cutting here. So I'm going to put it on my cutting pads, position the top plate so that whatever's under the top plate cuts, and whatever's not under it won't cut. So that's been through my die cutting machine, so I'm just removing the die and that bit of tape, and I've got the little finger hole there just how I wanted it. Now you could leave it like that if you wanted, but I didn't want it like that, so I'm going to trim that off. And I apologise for the bright camera glare there, I don't know what caused that. So I've just got my metal ruler and scalpel, and I'm going to trim it off. So again, I apologise for that glare. And there I have a little finger hole. So now it's time to stick this into the frame. And as I said, I didn't like the way it was sitting up a bit high on that left-hand side. So I'm going to trim a bit off with my metal ruler and my scalpel. Sorry again for that flare. So I'm just trimming off about 1 millimetre. Now you may not need to trim any off yours. It will depend on what you think when you're putting yours together. I was just being particularly fussy with mine. Now when we put the door in, we're going to put it in on the inside of the shadow box frame and press it into place. And there we have our door. So the card is now finished, ready for decorating. When you open it up, you've got a shadow box on both sides, and the one on the left side has a door that you can open and hide things behind. So I've got one here that I made before I did the assembly tutorial, all decorated. And behind the door, I think, is a really great place to put a gift card because it's unexpected for the recipient. Now I've just got my gift card in there with some removable adhesive, but you could so easily make a pocket for it to go into as well. On the right hand side there, just take care with your decorations that they're not too high. I had to squish down those flowers a little bit because it will impede on the left hand side, and also the way the card opens and closes, it'll be a bit too bulky. So that's my tutorial finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired to make one of these cards. They're not that terribly hard to make, and they are a lot of fun, and you could decorate them in many different ways. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the link to the KLJUYP Lovers store to where you can buy this die set. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, it's bye for now.